Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Michael Herman. This evening, we're honoured to acknowledge Rear Admiral James Gilmore, Commander, Joint Force New Zealand, accompanied by Lieutenant General Greg Bilton, Chief of Joint Operations, Australian Army, and their accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome the delegation from Multicultural Australia's Future Leaders Advocacy Group. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Herbert Arthur Snell. Herbert Snell was born on the 31st of March 1919 in Warrulan, Queensland, to Charles and Ethel Snell. He had 6 siblings and lived on the family farm. He attended Kenilworth State School and was a keen cricketer, playing for the local team. After leaving school, Snell worked at the Kenilworth sawmill and at local farms as a labourer. At the age of 22, he enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, joining up at Gympie on the 20th of May 1941. After some initial training, he was posted to the 2nd 26th Battalion. At the end of July, Snell embarked with his unit aboard the Dutch transport ship Manie van Sint Aldegonda, arriving in Singapore on the 15th of August. The battalion then deployed to Malaya, where it continued training and began preparing defences. Following Japan's entry into the war in December, the 2nd 26th was part of the 8th Division's defence of the Malayan Peninsula. However, on the 15th of February 1942, after weeks of fierce fighting, Singapore fell to the Japanese. Herbert Snell was one of 45,000 Australian and British troops captured in the surrender. Initially held in Changi prisoner of war camp, where the men were subject to harsh conditions and scant rations, the Japanese soon began to draft prisoners into forced labour units. It is likely that Snell became part of A Force, which left Changi for Burma in May of 1942. A Force was part of a large number of prisoners and civilians pressed into work as slave labourers forced to construct the Burma-Thailand Railway. Snell was recorded as having passed through Mulmine prisoner of war camp at the start of the Burma end of the railway, where conditions were horrific. Many of the prisoners were malnourished and disease was rife. In all, 279 Australians died on the Burma section of the railway. Once the railway was completed in October 1943, the remnants of A Force, including Snell, returned to Singapore. On the 6th of September 1944, he was one of 649 Australians loaded onto the ship Reikyu Maru for transport in convoy with the Kachi Doki Maru to Taiwan. On the morning of the 12th of September, the convoy was attacked by American submarines. The Reikyu Maru, carrying 1,318 prisoners of war, was hit twice by torpedoes. The ship was evacuated and some prisoners managed to board lifeboats and rafts, with many more clinging to debris in the water. The ship took 12 hours to sink. Over the following days, Japanese destroyers picked up around 500 survivors of the 2 ships. American submarines would rescue around 150 more, but a total of 1,559 Australian and British prisoners perished. Among their number was Private Herbert Snell, who is thought to have died on the 13th of September. He was 25 years old. Snell is commemorated on the Labuan War Memorial on the island of Labuan off the coast of Borneo. 2 of his brothers also served in and survived the Second World War. Private Herbert Snell's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, along with some 40,000 others from the Second World War. A photograph of his name listed on the Labuan War Memorial is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Herbert Snell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.